Hey everyone, Coach TurtleKing here again. In this installment of the How to Take Down series, I'll be teaching you how to beat one of the most accessible characters within DLC Pack 2, Pyra and Mythra. This duo was really popular around their release, with several top players picking them up as a potential main or secondary, but now we don't really see as many of them being solo mained. However, their relative ease of use and their high potential in many matchups means that it's not uncommon to run into Pyra and Mythra, especially when they're used as secondaries to cover bad matchups. Today I'll be teaching you how to get past their overwhelming offense and make it hard for them to return to stage. You may already know the drill by now, but if you don't, hop into training mode and spend 5 minutes playing around with Pyra and Mythra's moveset. They have less gimmicks and special inputs than Steve and Kazuya, which I've covered before, so it should be easier to familiarize yourself with how their moves work. But as a higher level player, you should be taking mental notes on how laggy their moves feel to land or rise with. Notice how hard it would be for Pyra to frame trap you with a rising up air, whereas it almost has no lag when she's landing with it. Count how many hits are on Mythra's Nair too. Being familiar with that move is important to learning how to deal with her as a character. Things like this are things you should consider as you're playing around with this character. First things first, how do you beat Mythra, and sometimes Pyra, in neutral? Most of the time, Mythra is a choice for neutral since she has some of the best ground mobility in the entire game, while she also has access to high damaging combos at low percents. The main way Mythra relies on opening you up is by mixing up the timing, drift, and spacing of her approaches, using F tilt and down tilt for grounded pressure, and especially looking for a connection on her neutral air as her aerial pressure. Mythra's Nair is not actually safe on shield, and at -10, it's punishable by some chunk of the cast with her fastest out of shield options. But the move possesses a tricky landing hitbox, which is the -10 one, even a slight pancake on her hurtbox, which can make it tougher than it looks to punish her. Once that landing hit occurs though, a quick out of shield is enough to swat her off of you. Other ways to deal with Nair and Mythra in general is to outspace her attacks. Despite having a sword, she doesn't have the greatest range. She's playing proactive and trying to open you up with multi-hits and grounded pokes. Position yourself outside of her range with your most disjointed attacks, and do your best to try to stuff her out or whiff punish her if she does for any rising aerials. Mythra can also play more reactive instead, because she's so mobile she has a lot of flexibility in her playstyle. So she might try to whiff punish you with her immense speed. This is beat by slowly approaching Mythra without making huge commitments. Look at my guides on baiting and punishing and on enforcing your zone to get an idea of what this could look like. Since Mythra will be switching between these styles depending on what gives her success, your job is to pay special attention to when she's going to try to run you down or when she's going to try to whiff punish you. In general, I've noticed that Mythras like to start by seeing if they can run you down with Nair, and once you've proven that you can deal with it and mount a solid defense, they like to play more passively. Neutral against Pyra, on the other hand, it's a little more straightforward. I'll actually cover it more when I talk about playing defense, since Pyra often comes out when she's looking to secure a stock against you, and you're playing for your last hit. But watch out for auto-cancelled aerials, since a lot of her core aerials will be safe when done rising, without a fast fall. You can also struggle more against pressure that's mounted against her if you're mobile, or smart out of shield play and whiff punishes if your character has good defensive options, which is what makes her not as strong a pick in neutral. When you're in an advantage against Pyra and Mythra, they have a few core strengths and weaknesses that you have to keep in mind. Mythra has Foresight, a frame 2 special air dodge, spot dodge, and roll, which allows you to slow down time while dodging, potentially opening you up for a punish. The counterplay to this is to not let it trigger when you can, so go for frame tight combos and anything that you would do for any other frame 2 air dodge character. Frame traps can be riskier against this move, but if you know a combo isn't true and you will be frame trapping, you'll need to delay the frame trapping move to avoid frames 2 to 5 of Mythra's air dodge, which is when the Foresight will trigger. Pyra does not have access to this tool and falls slower, making her disadvantage a lot worse than Mythra's in terms of being juggled. She does have Falling Nair, but it's a move with high startup and decent end length, so it can be baited or stuffed, but if it hits you, it has a decently high reward. The duo's main weakness, however, is offstage. Pyra travels a really good distance upwards with her up B, while Mythra has access to horizontal moving side B and some air drift after her up B, but she can't have the best of both worlds at once. Pay attention to which character the Pyra Mythra player is on while they're recovering, and when they swap to take advantage of their frame 6 invulnerability on the swap move. Both characters have extremely poor hitbox coverage over the top of their heads while ascending with their up specials, and Mythra's side B is completely vulnerable to attacks that are dropped on her from above. Keeping this character is one of the main reasons that they can be scary to play, since one wrong move off stage can result in them taking a lingering Nair and tapping them too far from recovery distance. They have a lot of options, but each one individually has pretty big weaknesses, So it's your job to catch on to the common ways that these options are being mixed together to throw you off. Keep an eye out for stuff like drifting in with Mythra and then swapping to Pyra while under the ledge for more vertical height, or Mythra using up B early in attempts to catch you running off stage with a hitbox. These things can be baited and punished. Lastly, you've got to be able to escape both these characters' pressure. Being a disadvantage against Mythra boils down to being frame trapped, comboed, and ledge trapped. My best advice here is to not sweat the damage that she might be racking up on you, as panicking and burning your jump or lazily air dodging may cost you more damage instead. Instead, try to time your air dodges at times where she overcommits in her juggles, by doing something like a full hop up air, rising, or a double jump aerial, and she'll struggle to frame trap you after. And when you're back on the ground, use the nair counterplay we talked about earlier to avoid getting reset into another combo. Her tilts are also exceptional at picking up combos in scramble situations, so try your best to mix up defensive options to escape scrambles, and challenge her pokes with faster or larger hitboxes if you have access to it. Sometimes, getting hit by Mythra is kind of just a tax you have to endure, and the real money plays come in when you're not losing your stock. So how don't you lose your stock once Pyra comes out? You need to watch for key moves and counterplay them extremely hard. Dair is the biggest one, literally, and if Pyra comes out at a seemingly early percent, it's because she wants to cheese you with Dair up smash. Don't give it to her at all costs. This means not spot dodging out of fear, hold shield, parry Dair on reaction, jump often, and place hitboxes where Pyra would want to line up a Dair. Take the throw if you have to, as Pyra and Mythra will never kill you directly off a grab. Pyra has other threatening arrows too. Her back air is surprisingly laggy when landed, but it's auto-cancelable with a short hop and without a fast fall. Fair is safer landing, but doesn't have as much kill power as you'd expect. F-tilt is huge, but it can be called out by jumps. Essentially, you just want to let her hit your shield as much as you can afford and only swing when you'll be stuffing the high startup on her attacks or interrupting her movement. So lingering attacks will be putting in a lot of work against her. You can survive more hits than you'd expect if you just stay in the center of the stage as well. So it's time to practice. Play 5 games as or against Pyra and Mythra, and implement some of the strategies we just talked about. If you're playing as Pyra and Mythra, take note of how people are interrupting your recoveries, or when you stop being able to find success by just running up in nair. Those successful plays against you are things that you should be implementing yourself, and expecting that practice Pyra and Mythra mains are expecting you to do instead. So now you have a fundamental game plan against Pyra and Mythra, and you have things to keep in mind the next time you encounter one in bracket. If you can force them off their level 1 game plan, then you're well on your way to taking games and sets off of them. This was Coach TurtleKing, and I'll see you in the next workout, where I won't be telling you how to take down a character like I have been before, but instead I'll be telling you how to make callouts in high pressure situations, just like me. Stay tuned.